remember that. Home to many diverse Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit.
Fires south of town this morning when I arrived. One previously, I think maybe the first one.
The overview?
And then I came into it late.
Ah.
So.
Well, I'm glad you're here as Kyla and Cheryl. So Slave Lake and Edmonton represented. How's the smoke up there, Bonnie?
There were 3 new fires south of town this morning when I arrived at school, and they are just letting people know who have to leave, then they're closing Highway 2.
Oh, wow.
To Edmonton. So it's
well,
a little, people are a little stressed about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had issues with that in the past, correct?
Yes.
So we'll thinking about you. So in the last couple of sessions, we started with the overview. We went to comprehension, and we talked about that spiral in how everything is nested together. Today, we're going to focus on the writing aspect, and we're focusing on particularly the learning outcomes, but then trying to focus on those understandings and how we're pulling them out and connecting them to knowledge and skills and procedures. Here's your link or QR code for ULearn Alberta if you need to go there. We talked about as well in the beginning about how a structured language and literacy program has all of these requirements, which are, harken back to the, 5 pillars of phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And here we have those. They've just been reorganized a touch. And also, we know we have to include the written expression as well. So we talked about Scarborough's reading rope and how important it was in understanding how we build language comprehension and word recognition to help students become skilled readers. We acknowledge that background knowledge, vocabulary knowledge are hugely important, vocabulary especially, but how we have to really pull out that background knowledge for students to really help them increase their ability to comprehend what they're even reading. Language structures, verbal reasoning, literacy knowledge, all of those woven together help students create strategic thinking in the comprehension. And then, of course, that ability to understand the phonological piece and how that plays into and strengthens decoding and spelling and builds then overall sight recognition to increase automaticity so that the two together help create our skilled readers. Now, one of the people that I've followed for a number of years now, I shouldn't say a number of years, I suppose, is 4 years a number of years? I suppose it could be, couldn't it? And that is a lady called Joan Sedita. And her work has actually shown up more in a website called the International Dyslexia Association. And so people got very excited about it and about her work. And so what she had done is taken this idea of a reading rope, and she created a writing rope. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that connects to curriculum to help us build a framework around the instruction piece of writing. So the pieces that she talks about, and this is, first of all, there was no book, but then she wrote a book on the writing rope and a framework for explicit writing instruction in all subject areas. So it's a great book. And I'll be talking a little bit more, some pieces of that. But her highlights in her 5 strands: critical thinking, and that involves the writing process as well, how to get information. Syntax, and that's about sentence, punctuation, grammar. text structure, and that includes, informational, well, it includes narrative writing, expository writing, and also when we look at paragraph structure and overall organization. And that organization looks at cause and effect, and as well as comparing, contrasting, describing. It also looks at that problem solution, which in narrative writing is a really big piece. What is the main character trying to do in a story? Solve a problem. If there's no problem to solve, then it's, probably a really young kid's book. It was a good day. Bunny went out. Bunny had fun. The end. Not a lot of problems to solve. And then we expand to create, well, Bunny has to eat. Bunny has to find food. How's Bunny going to find food? Now Bunny has a problem to solve. So it's that expansion of the text structure. The writing craft looks at word choice. We talked about powerful words. And looking at audience, literary devices, and then of course in transcription, it is about spelling and handwriting and keyboarding. At what point is that digital world come in and help kids with their writing? I had a student I went to assess who was in grade 4. And I knew going in there he had a mild cognitive delay. So in having a mild cognitive delay, there's not a lot of really abstract thinking. At least he thought not. And so I took him out to the library, and he's, gave him some paper. He says, I can't write. I'm like, oh, okay. So we went and got a Chromebook. We sat that down and I said, okay, can you type? Nope, can't type. And I said, okay. So what I did is I opened up the Read Write for Google Chrome, and I said, tell me what you did after school yesterday till you came to school today. And so he started talking, and I don't think he realized I had turned on the text to speech or speech to text. And he talked and he talked and he talked about everything that he did, and about making dinner, and they didn't have enough of this to make dinner, so they made something else. And when he was done, I showed him what he had written on the computer, and it was nearly a whole page, and he was shocked. It's like, that's not writing. I didn't write it. I said, but you told the story, and now it's gone from your mouth onto the page. You've just written it. So I have to say that just brought tears to my eyes, because it brought tears to his eyes. So transcription isn't just about the encoding onto a piece of paper or into the computer. Encoding can be a lot of things. It can be pictures. So Joan Sedita is one of my favorite people to talk about. And remember that in any of these metaphors, we're using the strands to tell us when things, if they fray, there is a problem. And it's not just the end result, it's what's happened along the way. So, according to Joan, significant attention is paid to the multi-component nature of skilled reading, while writing tends to be referred to as a single monolithic skill. I'd like to suggest a model that identifies the multiple components that are necessary for skilled writing. A similar rope metaphor can be used to depict the many strands that contribute to fluent skilled writing. It should be noted that instruction for many skills that support writing also support reading comprehension. So, all together. In the new new curriculum organizing idea for writing, as it is from kindergarten right up to grade 6, ideas and information can be articulated accurately and imaginatively through the use of writing processes and an understanding of the author's craft. interesting. And the intent behind the curriculum says that as text creators, this is that front matter piece that all curriculum have. As text creators, students explore ways to share their ideas, respond to texts they encounter, and to the world around them. Throughout English, language arts, and literature, students apply writing processes and language conventions to organize ideas and communicate effectively in a variety of digital and non-digital contexts. So it's apply writing processes and language conventions to organize ideas and communicate effectively. So one of the things that is kind of coming to me, it's a little simplistic, is that the writing process and conventions are how we get the ideas that we want across, and that we have to spend more time with that. That goes back to the ministerial order, where it was very specific in saying we need to go back to foundational skills. So writing is communicating and demonstrating understanding. In strand 1, this is going back to the writing row. This is the critical thinking strand. So I believe she calls it the critical thinking strand because the student has to sift through a lot of information in order to decide what ideas they're going to generate. It is also that process of organizing, drafting, writing, revising. Revising is the worst, isn't it? That's the one step we get to, and it's like, how do we get kids to get through that as part of the process? Because we usually end up being that part of the process, don't we? We're the ones who do the editing and the revising, and then have kids, go back and go, oh, it was fine. What was wrong with it? Also, within critical thinking, background knowledge. So in the assessments that I do, I have students write about something that is favorite to them, a favorite sport, for example. And I've had students go, oh, I really like basketball. Okay. They don't know anything about basketball, so they can't write anything about basketball. And I'm like, okay, so let's find something you do know, what sport you do like. Oh, I like baseball. I know how to play baseball. Okay. So background knowledge is very important in writing as it is in reading. What do students want to communicate through their writing? So is it narrative? Is it informational? Excuse me. So that's going to make a really big difference. And it can involve, in the critical thinking, it can involve right away how we prompt them. We can get them to do summaries, personal responses, and research tests as well. Oh, here's comes somebody new. In the syntax strand, as I mentioned before, grammar, syntactic awareness, sentence elaboration, and punctuation. One of the things that came up when I was speaking with the grade 4s the other day is they seem particularly focused on sentence elaboration. And so let's find out in specific in the grade 5 curriculum if that's as big a concern. So as we go through our Jamboard, let's see if we can find that. And of course, punctuation. One of the things that I find very challenging for students that are struggling in their writing, some of them don't even use punctuation. And so they're not aware of sentence structure. So that's a very interesting point, that how much time are we spending on that? Text structure, whether it's narrative, whether it's expository, is it somebody's opinion, is an opinion piece? All of those different structures have a different way to go about, as a teacher, how I support it, how I teach it. Paragraph structure is another thing. The paragraph in itself, that main idea and supporting ideas, it's a tough one. And sometimes what I've started with kids is simply asking them a list of questions first. They answer the questions, whether orally or in writing. And that in itself is a structure. And then I'll show you a great framework for supporting kids who really struggle with writing. So the patterns of organization, that's where we talked about describing, sequencing ideas, cause and effects, and so on. And linking and transition words. Wow. The ability, then that goes back to sentence structure, the ability to know the difference between simple, compound, complex sentences, and what are those linking words or connectors that students use. And then the transition words, moving from one to another. I have like a 3-page, or not 3-page, 3-column chart that I follow when I assess kids in their writing to look at, okay, I got to remember out of these 50 transition words, are they using them? Word choice, powerful words. And who are you writing for? And then the literary devices. Does anyone remember an author used to write the, what do I want to say? He used to write the readers, some readers that Edmonton Public used, the Bill Martin. Bill Martin, in his books that students would use in the classroom, write in the context of a paragraph, his powerful words were visual. And so it wasn't just the word pow, it was the word pow with, capital letters, and it was in red, and there was a big explosion around it. And that's how he showed through literary devices one way to achieve powerful word use. Transcription strand again, it's like, how are we going to share that? What is spelling going to look like? And so what happens in our organizing ideas in the curriculum, we have phonological awareness, and then we have, what did I want to say? Phonics. And that goes, phonological awareness goes K to 2, phonics K to 3. Maybe I have that backwards, but it doesn't matter. The idea is it doesn't go until the end of grade 6. What happens to it from grades 4 or grades 3 and up, basically, is it's moved into conventions. And I thought, that's why I thought if I'm doing the writing focus, that our last focus is going to be on conventions and morphology and that kind of work. So there are your 5 strands, because it is about using those strands, weave them together, make them strong, watch out for any frayed strands. This is the same metaphor that I used within the reading rope. So the curriculum connections. So here are the learning outcomes for grades 4, 5, and 6. I showed them all to you. And as grade 5s, the focus is students enhance the accuracy and artistry of expression through creative and critical thinking processes. Wow, okay, that's writing as a learning outcome. So then we go back and we look at what are they doing in grade 4? What will they be doing in grade 6? What are you reviewing and what are you extending? Here's a bridging document, like the comprehension one that we use, and you'll find the link. So remember, anything underlined in the slides is a live link when you get those. So here, this looks at the suggestions from the previous grade 4 curriculum. So you're going to have your new grade 5 students in September who have been going through probably 99.9%. Some schools have implemented or piloted, if you like, the new curriculum this year. Many haven't. So anyways, in the previous curriculum in grade 4, aspects of writing are woven throughout. Specific spelling patterns are not identified. Doesn't mean they didn't exist, but there wasn't as clear a scope and sequence. So now in grade 5, to enhance the accuracy and artistry of expression, and doing that through creative and critical thinking processes, and like, well, that's a big shift in thinking. So the suggestions are to look at what they did. Interesting that the grade 4s next year will have had that first year of the new grade 3 curriculum. So by the time they come to you, they'll have 2 years of the new curriculum. So we're looking at the writing processes, creative expression, the research, and then it also talks about the ethical use of information, and that has to do with, don't plagiarize. And then the learnings can be integrated and built upon in grade 5. So it also goes back to, not that they won't have had it in the old grade 4 curriculum, but just we are more focused on grammar, punctuation, and spelling patterns in writing. So again, here's that, the organizing ideas and where they go. Most of them will go K to 6, except for fluency, phonics, and phonological awareness. Phonics and phonological awareness show up under conventions. All right, so here's the thing we're going to do. And I want to spend, I want you to do it. I will be here I'm going to like watch you. So we can do it a couple of ways. I can put you into 2 rooms, and then like Kyla and Cheryl, you guys can work together because you're at the same school. And then Bonnie and Ashley, you could work together in a room. Or we could all just do it together here. What would you like to do?
I'm for doing it together.
Yes. Bonnie's going to be the spokesperson of the 2023.
Totally good with whatever. Yeah, we're happy to do that too.
Okay. All right, so let's do it together. So there's the bit.ly link. I'm going to just get my cursor over in that page, and I'll put the link into the chat. That's sometimes people just don't go with that, but there's the chat, or sorry, there's the link in the chat for you. Oh, I should make sure that I shared this. I'm sure I did, but you never know. You never know what I do. I'm trying to figure out what I did here. Okay, let me just check and make sure I shared it properly. No, I didn't. Okay, that should work. There we go. We're good? We're all, I see, I love these names. Anonymous Giraffe. Maybe that's me. Are you getting in okay?
Yeah, I'm in. This is Cheryl.
Cheryl, you must be the anonymous lemur.
Oh, maybe I am. I just went from your link.
I'm in too.
Yeah, it just, when I look at it, I don't know if you see it, but when I look at it, those little circles at the top, the participants, everyone has a very strange name. Anonymous koala, badger, lemur, giraffe. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different than we did before. So what I've done is similar. We're not doing breakout rooms. You're going to review the organizing idea, guiding question, learning outcome. Then you're going to, and I'll show you this here. There's your organizing idea, because what I want you to focus on is on the vocabulary used. There's your guiding question. There's your learning outcome. And then I took out the understandings and I numbered them. They're not in order. But what I want you to do, and I'm going to show you the following pages, I want you to find the understanding that matches the knowledge and skills and procedures, or just copy it and then paste it on. So I think what I'm going to do, there are four understandings. I'm going to give each one of you a number. And I'd like you to then, all you need to do is click on it. Then you can copy it, Control C, and then take it to either page 6, 7, 8, or 6, 7, 8, or 9, and then paste it into where you think that understanding connects. So Vonnie, I'm going to give you number 1, Kyla, number 2, Ashley, number 3, and Cheryl, number 4. And again, these are not in the correct order of how I put the understandings. Do you understand what I need you to do? Any questions? Oh, you're muted. Vonnie, if you're talking to me, you're muted.
So because Dad's here and he's starting with the root, you'll want to get a strainer and bring the water out.
Okay, Kyla, Cheryl, Ashley, you're good?
Yep, I think we're good.
Yep, all good.
Be interesting to see how this goes.
How was your day? Session I attended. And results ready as well. We've got this going and
So Kelly, are we just doing one of the understandings?
so until we
Yep.
know exactly
Okay.
who's gonna be right, if they're aligning with us or if we're aligning with them, don't bother them.
Was yours the creative one?
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of figuring out how to connect that understanding.
These are the things that outline with the new curriculum. Here's where you need to pull from grade 7 concepts and grade 8 concepts and grade 4 concepts to fully align with the Alberta curriculum. Meanwhile, Alberta Education did the same thing.
And no fair cheating by going back to curriculum and finding it.
So which one are you supposed to follow?
Not that you would ever do that.
That's exactly what Donna was saying. Until we find out, don't bother downloading anything.
Cheryl, how are you doing with yours? And Ashley, how are you doing?
So
Oh, yes, Fawn.
I clicked on what I thought was right, and I went to a page, and I couldn't unmute myself, so I had to get my colleague to help me to find my way back.
Oh. And did you find which understanding goes with which knowledge and skills?
No. The one I was on.
You're number 1, correct?
Okay. Let me look at it. So I'm looking at number 1.
Yours is number 1. You should be on page 5 of the Jamboard right now, right? Research processes can involve examining materials or information and reaching new conclusions. So
How do I know what page I'm on? I'm not seeing it. I don't know
does
if
it
I'm
show
on the
up
right.
top? What do you see on your page? Do you see a yellow sticky? Oh, did you just click on that?
I see a box with a yellow sticky that says copy, understanding and
you're on
paste.
the right-
Yeah. And then above that, I see number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
you know-
So
do you
is
know
that
how to
page
copy it?
5? Yes.
You're on page 5 right now. So copy it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can find which knowledge and skills they go with.
Okay.
Oh, were you the number 4?
I was number 4. Cheryl's 4, and I did that one.
And Ashley, how are you doing with yours? Oh, maybe Ashley had out. So I think Ashley was number 3. Writing skills can be developed to understand self and influence others. Kyla or Cheryl, where would you put that?
I can do number 3 if you want. Want me to do it?
Thank you.
Okay. Oh,
I beat you, I think, Carol.
Okay.
Oh, someone's trying to be competitive.
Cheryl will appreciate it.
Yes, I do.
So Bonnie, then that
Yes.
leaves you with, we go to page, or let me go back. Yours is research processes. So when we go to
I did it.
page, oh, you've got it.
There we go.
All right. So what did you notice when you were, all of you, what did you notice when you were connecting your understanding to the knowledge and skills of teachers?
Well, it repeated the words.
Keywords.
They just repeated the word.
Yeah.
So there were some of the words that were in it, and that seems simplistic, but it's an important piece, because when we go to, I'm on page 6. Page 6 was the understanding of writing skills can be developed to understand self and influence others. That's the understanding that we want to bring kids to. Remember, we're pulling that out. And so when we get to the knowledge, we look at, and I couldn't make that any bigger, so I apologize for that. Well, actually, no, that was not the right way to go. I can make this page itself bigger. Writing processes can be used to break writing into manageable chunks. So text creators can focus on impact or artistry. So the whole understanding developed to understand self and influence others. And the skills and procedures, sorry, let me go back. The knowledge is the what? Skills and procedures are how we're going to do it. What are the kids going to do? They're going to create text. They're going to do that for different audiences, different forms of written text. And then when we go to creative thinking and enhance personal expression and artistry, well, like you said, it's been this repeated creative thinking process and what that involves. And then how we do it, applying creative thinking processes, analyzing mentor text. So one of the things you will find under the skills and procedures, there are a lot of verbs. The verb are things that we can use when we get to the assessment phase. And we can say, you know, evaluate how language and dialogue are used to express voice, point of view, and ideas. Well, how would you talk about your student and their ability to do it? Johnny is learning how to evaluate language and dialogue, but needs extra help in expressing his voice and point of view to share his idea. That in itself becomes part of the assessment process. All right, and now we're on to the understanding of research processes and the knowledge they need to know. Research processes involve management of information, questioning, gathering, organizing, recording. How do they do it? Writing, research questions, main idea. So more thoughts on how to use the research process. Now, this is a little bit different in grade 4. If you want, I can pull up the grade 4 Jamboard. Would that help you? Anybody? Or you're good, just carry on.
If you think it's notable, I would go with you because you've been dealing with both so much.
Oh, you have no idea. Let's just do this one. So the understanding is the method or tool used to present written works can influence how content is perceived. And there's that transcription from the writing room, written communication, printing, keyboarding, cursive handwriting, and then how to go about doing it. So there are some skill and strategy, sorry, let me say that again, instructional strategy to use to support this part of curriculum. I think that was the last one. So let me see if I can find, I've got to change the side.
Can I ask you if do you interpret that to mean that we should be teaching cursive handwriting?
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I haven't come across anything that specifically says thou shalt.
Okay.
So
Good.
not in 4, 5, or 6. There is more reference to it in grade 3. So traditionally, you know, cursive is taught in grade 3. So then it is referred to, which means it's in the curriculum. So what do you think you should do? Probably have to, at some point, teach it. Let me go back to, and sometimes at that level, hang on, I've got to get out of this to get back to where I wanted to go. No, let's go to public. That's not where I want to be. You can still see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yes.
There. Whoop. Hang on, my screen just did something weird. Okay, so here's the grade 4. We didn't do the same thing, so it's going to look a little bit different. And I'm going to make this. Okay, hopefully that's a little more readable. It's a little hard, I'm sure, for you to read as a screen share. So here it talks about writing as a vehicle for communication, creativity, and connection. So it's kind of similar. And then there's the writing processes again, except they're more specific. Writing processes used to organize and enhance messages include planning, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. So it's not notable in grade 5 about the publishing piece of it. And then when we move on, here we talk about creative thinking involves intentional application of the skills and processes to enhance the expression of ideas and emotions. So a little more personal, reviewing, revising, enhancing, lots of going back as part of the creative thinking process. And then research processes, similar to grade 5, talking about research processes, involve investigating materials or information to uncover facts and support problem solving. Lots of very linear teaching at that point. Oh, did we lose somebody? Okay, and then digital or non-digital methods or tools can enhance written works and the artistry of a message. And again, there's that transcription. Here it talks about artistry through letter formation, size, proportion, slant, but then it goes on to keyboarding, keystroking, key recognition, so beginning to use digital. So that's the grade 4 in a nutshell. I have to go back to see where I was at. Oh, there we go. There we go. So, did that help in seeing a connection there? I know it was really quick and dirty to talk about that, but.
It helped.
Yeah.
Also kind of painful to see that that's where it's going again. That's so sad. Like we're going to be what? Like cursive handwriting again? This is sort of shocking.
Cursive handwriting hasn't really disappeared, except unless it's just ignored. I don't know how much time I spent on cursive handwriting because I was teaching students with learning disabilities in a strategy program. And so, you know, what battle do you want to win here? Or do you want to win the war? So do you spend your time on that? So that becomes a question.
Right.
Can I just share something about handwriting?
Sure.
They stopped teaching cursive here for a while. And then they had grade 12 students that graduated and had to sign their paperwork. And had to go to the bank, their school trips, etc. And they had no signature.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to write their name. And to me, that's a shame in this day and age.
Well, as my understanding, and I could be flawed and wrong here, that there is no, I don't know whether there's a legal requirement that there has to be a cursive signature on any document, but there has to be some kind of mark. So I don't know quite what that means, and who knows. So, but yeah, no, I get it. So,
yeah.
You know,
So we're teaching it again.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on because I want to share some resources, but I want to find out or just show you the pages. I've taken all the information and I pulled it from this document. This is the grade 5 document for you to take a look at. If I've shared it correctly, I'll check it that I've shared it correctly. You should be able to access it but to view it. And even when you view it, you can cut and paste it. So just so you know that, you can print it off. Yeah, so anyone with the link can be a viewer. So this is the document. Just need to pull that, there we go. I guess I need to make that a bit smaller. Yeah, so we're gonna scroll down to the writing. because this is the whole grade 5 curriculum. And there's comprehension, should be up to writing. There we go. So where you see it in yellow, that's where you teach in term 1, and where you see it that's not highlighted. It's not to say that you ignore it, but it may not necessarily be highlighted at that time of year. So the grade 5 one is a little different from the other grades in that here is the understanding of writing skills can be developed to understand self and influence others. Of all of the knowledge here, this bottom part isn't highlighted until the next term, where it's highlighted over in the second term to teach it. So only part of it is taught in the beginning term of the year, whatever your school chooses term 1 or 2 to be. And then the skills and procedures aren't even there at that point. That's not to say you're totally ignoring them, but they're not quite there at that point. And then we move on to research processes, knowledge and skills in term 2. And then the method or tool to use to present written works can influence how context is perceived as an understanding. All of it is throughout the whole year. So I think I missed one of them, but here in the document, so I pulled them out. There's the learning outcome, there's the understanding, and focused on what are we teaching in term 1 and term 2, and there weren't any specific skills and procedures to identify, and that it's about writing processes and expression of ideas in term 2. Understanding is part of it in term 1, again, part of it in term 2. Let me just go back. Yeah, I think I did that correctly. And then now this one has it throughout term 2, but the length of the number of knowledge skills for research processes is quite long and identifies a number of different things that they need to know of where to get information. And then let me go back. So I have knowledge and skills and procedures usually side by side. Here I've got the knowledge because there's so many of them. And then I put the skills and procedures for the same understanding continued on the next slide because again, there's so many. And then we get the method or tool used to present the written works, knowledge and skills. So there aren't quite as many. So my question to you is, what is your biggest takeaway? What do you think you need to focus on? And don't worry if you don't have to answer the question. But think about, Cheryl had to run away. Cheryl had a point. I think soon most things will be signed digitally. Yeah, that's possible. So do you have any specific resources? So think about that for a moment. As you know, if you have something to share, then just shout out. And while you're thinking about that, what I'd like to do is to just share some of the resources that I have. One is a repeat from the comprehension, but because vocabulary is important, I've repeated it here. So this was shared by a grade 4 participant. And so I thought I might as well share it with you as well, because there are different grade levels that can be purchased, keeping in mind that this is an American publication, daily 6 trait writing. And there was a lot of focus on some of the structure of sentences, especially. That was the big focus for the teacher that shared this. Then, of course, The Writing Row by Joan Sarita talks about those 5 fundamentals: the critical thinking, syntax, text structures, writing craft, and transcription. How are those things represented in the curriculum as we've just gone through it? These are the particular chapters, and I highlight them because if you're interested in the book, it shows you what focus the book has in building some instructional strategies in each of the areas that I see that have that connection to our new curriculum. And especially in those very linear pieces on syntax, text structure, writing, and they refer to 3 types of writing, and critical thinking in summary and text source. And I wanted to just highlight from chapter 8. I apologize, I was going to have a sticky there and I forgot to do that. The 3 types of writing that are referred to: narrative, informational, and opinion. And she works through a number of different strategies that you can do in the classroom, and even how to introduce some of these ideas. Any questions about the Writing Row? All right.
Where do you get it?
In a store.
Any bookstore, or do you have to get
Pretty
it
much.
from a curriculum?
You know, I believe I should have put the link in there. I will check and make sure that I put the link. This particular one comes from Brooks Publishing. I don't think you can get it on Amazon. Let me just check. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. What's interesting is the cost. So there is one that's $55.95 and one that is $33.60. So it is on Amazon.
Okay, thank you very much.
So in there, is there something about the Writing Row that you might find useful? So think about that and how useful it will be to you. We've got about 15 minutes. I'll show you just a few more things. I want to harken back to that focus on background knowledge and how important it is for kids to be able to take what they know in their world and attach it to something new in their reading and in their writing. This is something that I have found particularly successful for struggling writers. And this visual, I'm sure, is very familiar to some of you. A little bit different. Used to be, make the hamburger, the beef that you put in is all the big ideas. This is a little bit different. There are some schools of thought that do not think that people should be using the 5-paragraph essay. I don't disagree. But the 5-paragraph essay for students that are struggling is a godsend. The 5-paragraph essay, tell them what you're going to tell them again. And it's very simplistic. So I always discuss with kids, with adults, the idea of writing about hockey. So this is more meant, of course, for expository writing, informational writing, not story writing. So we start with tell them. So in the first paragraph in the introduction, let's say the student wants to write about hockey. They've played hockey, they have background knowledge in it, they know what hockey is about. So they tell them, hockey is the most sensational sport in the world. You need to know some things in order to play a good game of hockey. you need to know your teammates, you need to know the scoring, and you need to know what equipment you need to wear. Now that's 3 things. I forget already what the first one was. So you need to know your equipment, you need to know scoring, and you need to know, I forget what the first one was. But the idea is every paragraph now is about that one of those things that is mentioned in the first introduction. So the student has identified 3 things: equipment, scoring, let's say rules. And so the first paragraph is about the rules. So he talks about rules in hockey are very important and you have to follow the rules. Here are 3 rules or 2 rules or 1 rule that you have to follow. So there's the first paragraph and the example. The second paragraph is about equipment. What do you need to wear in order to be safe when you're playing hockey? And so the student writes about that. And then finally about scoring, whatever order that I've mentioned. I'm totally wrong, it doesn't matter. And so they talk about, you know, how do you get a goal? What kind of penalties there might be. Then the last paragraph comes down to tell them what you told them. Tell them in the first paragraph says, I'm gonna, you know, hockey's a great game. These are the 3 things you need to know. Talked about each of the paragraph about each one of the 3 things. In the final paragraph, you're having the student basically retell what was in the first paragraph. Tell them what you're going to tell them again. And so it is a very simplistic framework, but for students that struggle in writing, it is a real godsend to them. So I started tutoring a student when she was in grade 3. And I tutored her until she was in 2nd year university. And so she started off with the 5-paragraph essay and learned a great deal about organizing her thoughts and ideas. And as she got older, she added more paragraphs, became more complex in her sentence structure. So the framework of a 5-paragraph essay is necessary in order to build on those other pieces. So it's something to think about, and it's not necessarily something you would do with everybody. There's a link here to an article on the 5-paragraph essay as well. Did I go to? No, I did. This is another one, Jennifer Saravello, in the Writing Strategies book. Her work talks about this, taking a look at this, what she calls the hierarchy of possible writing goals, composing with pictures. So just starting with pictures, engagement, generating ideas. Now, some of that is going to start to feel familiar back to curriculum. How do you generate ideas? Focus, organizing, structure, elaborating on ideas, using word choice, then convention, spelling, grammar, punctuation. And then the last one about how she talks about partnerships in clubs is not something you need to go through, but there you can find some more ideas. Her ideas are more organized into 1 or 2 pages. So think about that. This is a great resource if you have a smart board or something simple or similar in your room. The sentence structure using the smart board. And so it kind of looks like this, that you can go in and find your age level. And then it will focus on parts of speech, subject and predicate. And it gives things you can do physically on the smartboard. That's just building sentence structure. And you can go back to lower ages if you want to go back to simple and compound, complex. I've kept in here the Rewordify for vocabulary, simple English in Wikipedia. That's part of that getting information for references in research. And Google Translate for your English language learners. So, do you have any resources that you want to share? And if you don't, that's okay. If you want to email me, I can add it in.
I was just going to say that I use that same book from the United States for my grammar.
Which one?
The workbook that you showed us for the 6 traits.
Oh, the 6 traits, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just show you the one that I use for grammar.
Okay. Oop. Let's see.
That's what it looks like.
Is that the grade 5 one?
And no, grade 4. And I
you got
have
grade
the
4.
other book that you showed by what was her last name, Cirillo or something like that.
Cerebello.
Yeah.
Jennifer Cerebello.
Yeah, she has several books as well. Reading,
Oh, yeah.
writing.
He has the reading one. There's some new chapters that you can download for that. And then this one, I haven't spent a lot of time with this one, so I'm not quite as familiar. Understanding text and readers. So those are some ideas. You
I
muted
love,
again, Bonnie.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Kyla.
I love a man from the States. His name is Colby Sharp, and he's a
Okay.
teacher, so he's in a classroom, but he does some really good work with Donna Lynn Meyer, so it's more tied with reading than writing. But the Creativity Project is a book that he put together, and
Wow.
it is a story collection by authors that has writing prompts that are spectacular. So it's great for that creativity part.
And if you would like to email me that information, then I can include it in the slides that
Sure.
I send out. That would be great. And Bonnie, yours is the same one as the one I showed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the reading and the writing, and I think of the third one that you showed as well.
Oh, no, I meant the 6 traits one. That's the same one that I shared before, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions or wonders? Otherwise, we're meeting on the 24th, which said Monday, and I'm not sure why I thought it was Monday. Anyways, that'll be next Wednesday. After the long weekend, which have a wonderful long weekend. I'll stick around if you do have any questions. Otherwise, see you next time for our last session.
That's great. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. See you.
Yes, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate that.
No worries. All right.